Welcome, friends, to our magical 30-day challenge. We are bringing you a new story every single day.
This is day 20. Like and subscribe to help us reach our 100,000 subscriber goal together.
Hello, friends. Today, we will tell the story of a beautiful princess, a terrible curse, and a castle that slept for 100 years. This is the story of Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, lived a king and a queen. They were very rich and very kind, but they were also very sad. Every day, the queen would walk in her garden and say, if only I had a child." But for many years, they had none.
Your wish shall be fulfilled. Before a year has passed, you shall bring a daughter into the world.
The frog's prophecy came true. Within a year, a beautiful baby girl was born. She was so lovely that the king could not contain his joy. He ordered a great feast to be held in the castle. He invited all his friends, his family, and the noble people of the land. Now, there were 13 wise women in the kingdom, but the king only had 12 golden plates for them to eat from. So, one of them had to be left out. The king decided not to invite the 13th wise woman. The feast was held with great splendor. Candles glowed, music played, and everyone was happy. The first fairy stepped forward. "I give you the gift of virtue," she said, waving her wand.
I give you the gift of virtue. I give you beauty. I give you riches. I give you wisdom. I give you wisdom.
And so it went on. Each fairy gave the princess a wonderful gift: grace, song, dance, health, and patience. 11 fairies had given their gifts. Suddenly, the great doors of the hall burst open with a loud bang. The 13th wise woman stormed in. She was furious that she had not been invited. She looked very scary, wearing dark robes and holding a twisted staff.
How dare you exclude me from your celebration! You will pay for this insult.
She did not look at anyone, but walked straight to the cradle.
The king did not invite me, but I shall give my gift anyway. The princess shall not die when she is old.
Without another word, she turned around and left the hall. Everyone was terrified. The queen began to weep. But the 12th fairy, who had not yet given her gift, stepped forward gently.
Do not be afraid, your highnesses. The darkness is receding. Let this light heal your hearts. The princess shall not die. Instead, she shall fall into a deep sleep for 100 years.
The king wanted to save his dear child from this misfortune, so he gave a strict order.
Burn every spinning wheel in the kingdom.
The guards searched every house. They collected every spinning wheel and burned them in a great fire. The years passed. The princess grew up. And all the gifts of the wise women came true. She was beautiful, kind, clever, and modest. Everyone who saw her loved her. It happened that on the very day she turned 15 years old, The magical protection over her was at its weakest. The king and queen were away from the castle, having forgotten the dangerous date in their excitement. The princess was left all alone in the vast castle. She wandered about the castle, exploring chambers and rooms she had never seen. She was looking into rooms and chambers just as she pleased, enjoying her quiet freedom. At last, she came to the old tower where the king had banned all servants from entering. She climbed the narrow, winding staircase. At the top of the stairs, she found a little wooden door with a rusty key in the lock. She reached out her hand and grasped the heavy, cold, rusty key. She turned the key in the lock. Creak! The door sprang open. Inside the little room sat an old woman with a spindle, busily spinning her flax. The princess had never seen a spinning wheel before, and she looked at the strange rattling machine with wonder.
Good day, Granny. What are you doing there?
Huh.
What kind of fascinating machine is this? What is that thing that rattles round so merrily?
She was very curious about the rattling spindle, and she reached out her hand to touch it. But as soon as she touched it, the king's ban failed and the magic curse came true. She pricked her finger on the sharp point, and instantly she felt very, very tired. She fell back onto a bed that was standing there. And in that very moment, she fell into a deep, deep sleep. And this sleep fell upon the whole castle, spreading the magic from the highest tower to the deepest dungeon. The king and queen, who had just come home and entered the great hall, fell asleep in their rich robes. The whole court fell asleep with them, frozen mid-gesture, mid-sentence, mid-giggle. The horses went to sleep in the stable, standing still with hay in their mouths. The dogs went to sleep in the yard, frozen with their tails half wagging. The pigeons went to sleep on the roof, their wings paused in mid-flight. The flies went to sleep on the wall, completely motionless in the sudden stillness. Even the fire that was flaming on the hearth became quiet and slept, and the roast meat stopped sizzling on the spit. And the cook, who was about to pull the kitchen boy's hair, let him go and fell asleep. The wind dropped completely, and on the trees in front of the castle, not a single leaf moved. All around the castle, a great hedge of thick thorn bushes began to grow. Every year, the tangled dark hedge grew taller, covering the stone walls completely. It grew over the castle walls. Finally, the whole castle was hidden, and not even the flag on the roof could be seen. The legend of the Sleeping Beauty spread through the land, whispered in towns and taverns. From time to time, princes came and tried to force their way through the massive hedge. But it was impossible. The thorns held fast together like strong, sharp hands. The young men got caught in them, couldn't get loose, and died sad deaths, becoming part of the silent thorns. Many, many long years passed. The world changed outside the thorns, but the castle remained sleeping. One day, a new king's son came to the country. He heard an old man talking about the powerful ancient hedge of thorns and the strange castle behind it.
They say there is a castle behind it, and a beautiful princess named Briar Rose has been asleep there for 100 years. I am not afraid. I will go and see the beautiful Briar Rose.
The old man tried to stop him and told him of the deaths of the other princes, but the prince would not listen. Now, the 100 years were just ended. The magical time limit was over. When the brave prince approached the thorn hedge, it was suddenly covered with large, beautiful flowers. The bushes parted on their own to let him pass unhurt. He rode his horse slowly through the magical opening. Then the mighty wall of flowers closed again behind him like a solid living barrier. He went into the castle courtyard. He saw the horses and the spotted hunting dogs lying asleep. He went on, farther and farther. All was so quiet that he could hear his own breathing echoing through the castle. He went into the great hall. He saw the whole court lying asleep, and up by the throne lay the king and the queen. He went on, farther and farther. He saw the flies sleeping on the wall, and the cook sleeping in the kitchen. All was so quiet that he could hear his own breathing echoing through the silent castle. At last, he came to the tower where Briar Rose lay hidden. He opened the small door to the little room. There lay Briar Rose sleeping. She was so beautiful that he could not turn his eyes away. Her golden hair spread out like a fan around her on the pillow, and her face was perfectly serene. The prince knew he loved her. He slowly bent down, his heart pounding in his chest. He bent down and kissed her. As soon as his lips touched hers, Sleeping Beauty opened her eyes. She awoke and looked at him quite sweetly. They went down together, the prince and the princess. They were the first in the castle to move after 100 years. The king awoke, and the queen, and the whole court, and looked at each other in great astonishment. The horses in the courtyard stood up and shook themselves in their stable stalls. The hunting dogs jumped up and wagged their tails, ready to greet their masters. The pigeons on the roof pulled their heads from under their wings, looked round and flew into the open country. The flies on the wall crept again, slowly resuming their paths across the stone. The fire that was frozen in the hearth suddenly burst up and began to furiously flicker and flame again. The roast meat on the spit began to sizzle again, continuing its cooking after 100-year pause. And the cook, who was frozen with his hand raised over the kitchen boy's ear, instantly woke up. He gave the boy such a box on the ear that he screamed, continuing their argument right where they had left off. And then the marriage of the prince and Sleeping Beauty was celebrated, with all splendor, with music, feasting, and dancing. They were married, and they lived happily to the end of their days, just as the good fairies had promised. They ruled the kingdom with kindness and grace, and they were loved by all their people. And that, my friends, is the story of Sleeping Beauty and the triumph of true love's kiss. The end.
Did you love this magical tale? Please like, share, and subscribe.
Friends, do like and subscribe channel.